Are you going to sue Blake Lively too?
Into oblivion.
One thing you should know about me is I will admit.
Buckle up, because what we're about to reveal is seriously mind-blowing. For the first time ever, we've gained access to secret voice memos and text messages that weren't even part of the lawsuit. And let me tell you the details they expose about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's relationship. Absolutely insane. We've also got behind-the-scenes footage straight from the movie set that completely contradicts Blake's claims in her legal complaint. And here's the wildest part: this evidence is being held back for when the trial kicks off. So yeah, if this keeps up, Blake Lively might just be heading down the Amber Heard path. Just wait until you see what's next. Blake Lively's desire for control. As the time progressed in this film, she decided that she wanted to be a producer. She started to make edits. She wanted to be part of the editing team. There were people hired, like human beings actually hired to do the editing job, who had done work as editors. She wanted to be part of that team. As filming went on, Blake Lively suddenly decided she wanted a producer. Credit, she even started getting involved in the editing process, despite the fact that actual professional editors had already been hired for the job. She wanted in on their team, just like that. But here's where things get even spicier. Blake tried flexing her superstar connections. Yes, we're talking Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds to pressure Justin Baldoni in Sony Pictures. Her approach: pretty much hand over the film or say goodbye to my massive fan base's support. And we're not just talking a few fans, this is millions of people plus her A-list besties. Her entire plan totally flopped, and every single detail on how this whole thing took a shocking turn against her is just not making any sense. After working for this film for almost 2 years together, collaborating text messages, voice memos, getting along, joking, we never had an issue before the break. And then, after the break, suddenly there's this weird thing going on with the demands. That was Justin Baldoni straight up defending himself against the whirlwind of drama that Blake Lively stirred up. You're going to want to grab a jumbo-sized bucket of popcorn, because this story is way messier than you think. First off, this entire harassment controversy, it just doesn't add up. For almost 2 years, Blake and Justin worked together seamlessly, laughing, collaborating, and never having a single problem. Then, after a short break, everything flipped. Suddenly, Blake starts making demands. Ryan Reynolds blows up on Justin, and Taylor Swift glares at him like he's some kind of criminal. But here's the kicker: even after all that, Justin says they kept things totally professional. They spent countless hours together in the editing room fine-tuning scenes, and Blake was even eager to be part of the process. The real breaking point: one simple number. Justin didn't even outright reject her, he just asked her to wait until he had cut before giving feedback, and that was all it took. Next thing he knows, he's locked out of his own movie. Sony hands full control over to Blake, and suddenly Ryan and Taylor are promoting it like it was hers all along. Meanwhile, the guy who spent 5 years bringing this project to life gets treated like a total nobody at his own premiere. And let's not forget about Colleen Hoover, the author of the book. She was the one who personally picked Justin for this project. They were close. She contributed to the script, and they were actively promoting the movie together even after this so-called harassment supposedly happened. But the second Blake dropped her lawsuit, Colleen switched sides in an instant, posting on Instagram in full support of Blake, leaving Justin completely blindsided. So the real question is, was this all part of a bigger plan from the start, or did Blake just change the narrative when things didn't go her way? Now, if you've been keeping up with this chaos, you'd know that Justin has consistently praised Blake in interviews. He's called her brilliant, insanely talented, and deeply involved in shaping the film. He even credited her for improving key scenes, especially when it came to intimacy. He made it clear she had a strong vision for how everything should look. Better people for that one. I think there are better people for that one. Just, I think Blake lives ready to direct, that's what I think. But the moment she took full control, locked him out, and completely re-edited the film, she never publicly acknowledged him again, not a single good word, despite private texts showing the exact opposite. In those messages, she was full of gratitude, calling him talented and amazing to work with. And just when you thought this drama couldn't get any messier, Blake made an absolutely shocking claim, accusing Justin Baldoni of inappropriate behavior during their intimate scenes. But hold on, let's rewind. The very same scene she described in her lawsuit. The moment she claimed the incident happened when the lawsuit first dropped. Nobody knew what really went down behind the scenes. It was just Her word against his no context, no receipts. That is until Justin's legal team leaked the unedited footage, and that's when everything changed. Nos noses, and my nose is so big. Yes, I was hing. We can address this. It's not too late. Just got to shut down. We got to call in insurance month and just deal with that. Now here's where things get really interesting. Blake Lively wasn't just starring in this film. She was heavily involved behind the scenes too. At certain points, she even stepped in as an intimacy coordinator, making key calls on how these scenes should play out. But fast forward to her lawsuit, and suddenly she's accusing Justin of improvising and kissing her too much. But here's the catch: before the filming break, there were exactly 2 kissing scenes in the script. That's it, no unscripted moments. No extra physical contact, just those 2 planned scenes. Then once production resumed, everything changed. Blake returned with a whole new set of demands, refusing to meet with the actual intimacy coordinator before shooting started again, which, let's be real, makes her accusations even more questionable. It's almost like she was rewriting history, shaping a narrative that would push Justin out completely. But this isn't just about Blake. There's another major player in all of this: Colleen Hoover. Yep, that Colleen Hoover, the same one who once loved Justin's script, called it perfect, and was fully on board with his vision. But the moment Blake took over, Colleen flipped. She backed Blake's edits and played a role in reshaping the film, cutting Justin out entirely. Taylor Swift's involvement. Now let's talk about the unexpected role Taylor Swift played in all of this, because trust me, it's way more significant than most people realize. When it came to casting the actress for young Lily, Justin Baldoni was the one who discovered her and pushed for her to get the role. But guess who made the final decision? Not Justin, it was Blake and Taylor. Even the actress herself admitted that Taylor Swift was the one who gave the final stamp of approval, and despite Justin being the person who originally found her, his name was completely erased from the conversation, never mentioned in interviews, as if he had no part in it at all. Oh, but if you thought Blake was done stirring the pot, think again. She and Ryan Reynolds have been throwing subtle shade at Justin for a while now, trolling him in ways most people wouldn't even catch. And when you put all the puzzle pieces together, the bigger picture becomes crystal clear. So let's rewind to the very beginning and break down exactly what went on behind the scenes, because once you see the full story, you'll realize that this drama runs way deeper than anyone expected. Turns out Ryan Reynolds himself reportedly had a hand in rewriting the script. He made significant tweaks alongside Blake, adjusting scenes to fit their vision. When asked about it, one of the cast members even confirmed that Ryan wrote multiple scenes and made key changes, something that most actors would never be allowed to do. But because Blake was involved, suddenly the rules didn't apply from day one. Blake and Ryan were pushing to rewrite lines, changing parts of the script on a daily basis. This naturally caused serious tension behind the scenes, but Blake knew exactly how to play the game. She showered Justin with praise, telling him he was one of the best directors she had ever worked with. She claimed that other directors had always shut her down, never letting her have creative input, and Justin, wanting to be fair, let her take a stab at rewriting an important rooftop scene. And guess what? Blake made sure to emphasize that Ryan and Taylor loved her version of the scene and couldn't wait to see Justin's reaction. But it didn't stop there. She even invited Justin to her penthouse, where Ryan and Taylor personally hyped up her writing, convincing him that it had to stay in the film. Justin, trying to keep the peace, texted her afterward, complimenting her work and reassuring her that he'd try to incorporate her ideas in one of their private messages. Blake even went so far as to compare herself to Jishi from Game of Thrones, making it clear that she had powerful allies. She straight up referenced Ryan and Taylor as her dragons, backing her up with their influence in both the movie and music industries. This wasn't just name dropping for fun. Blake was showing that she had serious pull in Hollywood. Blake didn't just want control over one scene, she wanted to rewrite the entire script, and Justin, hoping to avoid conflict, allowed her to make daily changes, thinking it would keep things smooth. But as time went on, it became clear Blake wasn't just making small tweaks. She started questioning how every single scene was directed, and myself a lot of that had to do with, the brilliance of Blake Lively and being able to act with this powerhouse. Justin himself acknowledged Blake's deep involvement in shaping the film, and yet the moment she took full control, she never credited him once. Even before filming officially began, tensions were brewing. Allegedly, Justin made a comment about Blake's weight, not as an insult, but out of concern for his own safety, since there was a scene where he had to lift her, and given his existing back problems, he simply asked her trainer if It was safe, unfortunately, that conversation didn't remain private. Blake found out, became upset, and told Ryan Reynolds, who then confronted Justin at their penthouse. Reports say Ryan exploded on him, accusing him of body-shaming Blake, but Blake didn't stop. There, according to sources, she threatened to quit the project unless Justin agreed to do things her way. If he didn't comply, she allegedly warned that she'd go public with the accusation that he fat-shamed her. This put Justin in an impossible position, even though Justin had not actually done anything wrong, but the damage was already done. Ryan and Blake had already made him look like the bad guy. Since the team wanted to keep the movie going without any more trouble, Justin decided to apologize, even though he never meant to offend anyone. He was only trying to keep things calm and move forward. However, even after his apology, the situation did not get better. There was still tension in the air. As the filming continued, Blake kept working with Justin as if nothing was wrong. She acted normally around him, showing no discomfort or hesitation. What made the situation even stranger was that, later on, she accused him of harassment. If she truly felt uncomfortable around him, why did she continue to stay in touch with him? She had many chances to distance herself from him if she really felt unsafe or uneasy, but she did not. Instead, she remained in regular communication with him throughout the project. This made some people question the truth behind her accusations. On the other hand, Justin was already struggling with the situation. His reputation was at risk, and no matter what he did, it seemed like people had already made up their minds about him. Even though he apologized, many still saw him as the villain. He tried to focus on his work and behave professionally, but the whispers and side glances never stopped. It was frustrating for him because he knew he had not done anything wrong, yet he had to carry the weight of these accusations. Meanwhile, Ryan and Blake remained firm in their stance. They acted as if Justin was the problem, even though there was no clear proof that he had done anything inappropriate. Many people on set had their own opinions, but few spoke openly about it. Some believed Justin, while others sided with Blake. The whole situation became a messy controversy that overshadowed the film itself. As time went on, people started to wonder why Blake continued to work so closely with Justin if she truly felt uncomfortable. Some thought she might have misunderstood his actions or taken things the wrong way. Others believed she had her own reasons for making those accusations. No one knew the full truth except for the people directly involved. Despite everything, Justin did his best to move forward. He stayed focused on his work and avoided unnecessary drama. But no matter how hard he tried, the shadow of the accusations followed him. It was a tough situation, and it left many wondering if he would ever be able to clear his name. Did she keep reaching out for access to daily footage? In one text message, she wrote, "Hey Justin, not trying to bug you, but that playlist you sent me was good, just checking in again about possibly seeing the dailies." She even brought Ryan and Taylor into the conversation, saying they loved the clips. This suggests that behind the scenes, she was already leveraging her powerful connections to gain more control over the film, but when Justin refused to give her full access to the daily footage, likely to maintain proper boundaries, Blake didn't take it. Right after that, Blake went straight to Ryan and her lawyers, making more complaints about Justin. That was when things got even worse. The situation quickly escalated, and before anyone knew it, Blake returned to the set with a long list of demands. If Justin wanted her to continue filming, he had to agree to every single one of them. These were not small or simple requests. They were big demands that made things even harder for the entire production. It was not just about Justin anymore. Blake's actions were slowing everything down, and that meant the whole project was at risk. The longer the delays went on, the more pressure the production team felt. People started to worry about whether the movie would even be completed on time. Blake's demands were not just making things difficult for Justin. They were affecting everyone involved in the film. Hundreds of people were working on this project, from actors and directors to crew members and technicians. Their jobs depended on the film staying on schedule. But because of all the tension between Blake and Justin, everything was being put on hold. Even Sony, the company responsible for distributing the movie, started having concerns. They had invested a lot of money into this project, and now it was at risk of falling apart. Delays in filming meant missed deadlines, extra costs, and potential financial losses. People behind the scenes were scrambling to find a solution, but nothing seemed to be working. The more Blake pushed, the more complicated things became. Some people believed she was using the situation to gain control and prove a point. Others thought she might have had genuine concerns, but her way of handling things was extreme. No matter the reason, the fact remained that her demands were causing serious problems for everyone involved. Justin, on the other hand, was stuck in a tough position. If he refused to meet Blake's demands, the film might not continue, and he could be blamed for it. If he agreed, it would mean giving in to something he felt was unfair. Either way, he was in a no-win situation. As the days went on, the tension on set only grew worse. The once exciting project had turned into a stressful battle of power and control. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next, but one thing was clear: things were not going back to normal anytime soon. Understanding why Blake was making the demands, it was becoming clear Blake wasn't just playing the role of an actress, she was pulling the strings behind the scenes. The leaked footage that changes everything in her lawsuit. Blake accused Justin of being inappropriate, claiming that he kissed her neck, sniffed her, and told her she smelled good. But when the raw, unedited footage was reviewed, it became clear that the entire scene was taken completely out of context. At this point, the question has to be asked: was this a calculated move to push Justin out of his own project? Blake seemingly had all the power. Ryan and Taylor were fully backing her, and Sony ultimately sided with her. Meanwhile, Justin, who spent years developing this film, was left locked out, his reputation under fire and his contributions erased before this footage was made public. Blake had absolutely no idea that the audio from the scene had been recorded. When she found out, she claimed it was a form of harassment. But when you actually look at the situation, the reality is completely different. Both she and Justin were in character the entire time, fully immersed in the scene. What's more, Blake herself had suggested that they should interact on camera to enhance the romantic feel, especially since the scene would later be shown in slow motion. It was purely for cinematic effect, and there was nothing unusual, uncomfortable, or inappropriate about it. In fact, they were joking around and having fun throughout the entire process. If you listen to the clip, you can actually hear them laughing and casually chatting as they work through the scene. At no point does it sound tense or awkward. It's just two actors doing their job while keeping things lighthearted. They even poke fun at the script, discussing how their characters always have these intense slow-motion gazes at each other. It's all just part of their performance, adding to the drama of the film. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Justin isn't just sticking to the role, he's being openly kind and respectful toward Blake. At one point, he even compliments her, mentioning how adorable she and Ryan are as a couple. He goes on to talk about his own wife, emphasizing how romantic he is in his personal life. This kind of behavior doesn't align at all with the idea that he was acting inappropriately or harassing Blake. Meanwhile, Blake had no objection to any of it at the time. In fact, she was actively involved in shaping the scene, offering suggestions to make it feel even more romantic. Then things took another turn when the footage captured a moment where Justin gently touches Blake's chin and lip during a slow-motion shot, but again, this was completely scripted and done for cinematic purposes. It was not a personal gesture, nor was it out of line. It was simply a part of the scene they were filming, and the moment the director yelled "cut," everything stopped. Immediately, there was no lingering, no off-camera weirdness, just two professionals executing a scene the way it was meant to be performed. Blake was so engaged in the process that she even requested additional dialogue to amplify the romantic effect. Initially, there wasn't any talking in the scene, just Justin's character being affectionate, but Blake wanted to experiment with adding a few lines, and Justin was more than happy to roll with it. They filmed both versions, one with dialogue and one without, making sure they had options to work with in post-production. Despite all of this, Blake later came out with accusations against Justin, claiming that he had harassed her and even body-shamed her. But what's even more surprising is how she seemingly pulled Ryan into the situation, convincing him that Justin was a bad guy. And here's the thing, Justin and Ryan had never even worked together before. It's as if Blake shaped Ryan's entire perception of Justin based on her version of events. And this is where it gets even more bizarre. At the end of the film, Blake publicly thanked Ryan for playing a character named Nice Pool, which is clearly a nod to Deadpool. But there's a twist. It turns out that NCE Pool seems to be heavily influenced by Justin, which is odd considering Ryan and Justin had never collaborated, so how did this happen? Well, all signs point to Blake's involvement. The film itself contains multiple jokes and references that seem to poke fun at Justin's real-life physical struggles. For instance, Ryan's character makes a joke about low bone density and having to be careful with his face. This might seem random at first glance, but when you connect the dots, it starts to feel a lot more intentional. Justin has openly struggled with back problems, and coincidentally, this was the same issue Blake had pre